Hey everybody, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Spiritual Healthcare Day 84. Day 84. We are like so close to 100. We are so close to 100 now. It's crazy. Good morning to everybody. It is good to see all of you, and it's been a interesting morning, and lots to talk about today about everything from families to people crossing over and merging back into the non-physical and all of those things. So we've got lots to talk about today, and it'll be really, really good. Good morning to all of you logging in. It's good to see you. This is day 84, guys. Day 84, Spiritual Healthcare. Always good to see everybody coming in this morning. It's been, as I say, a really interesting day. Really great question this morning, which I can't wait to talk about, having to do with families and opinions and giving up your passions, and including investigations. So yeah, lots to talk about today. So, oh my goodness. So Brandy's saying, are you talking about almost 100 degrees? Oh my God. Oh my God. Guys, really? Like, that's crazy. Kaz, good morning. Patricia, good morning. Good morning to everybody. Des, good morning. It's good to see all of you guys. Yeah, our weather is not quite there. We are we are warm and sunny. We're warm and sunny, but not 100 degrees. That's nuts. We'll hit that later in the summer though. So I like knock on wood wherever that is. So good morning to all of you guys. It is good to see you. As I say, lots to talk about today, especially in terms of families, in terms of opinions, and where we draw the line with both spiritual beliefs and investigations and things like that, when families are divided and separated and disagree with what you're doing or what you're believing, or paranormal phenomenon, things like that. So it's really hard, especially when it's happening in your household. It's really hard. So good morning, Lori. Good morning. Nice to see you. Good morning, everybody. It's day 84. It's crazy. That's crazy. We're just like motoring through this. I know a lot of places are opening up now. New York apparently is moving into phase 2 of opening. I don't know about that. But Alberta is like into phase 2 and 3 now. And everything's starting to move up again, and we're dealing with different things. And I know a lot of heat has come up within families and stuff like that about belief systems and how to handle this stuff and all of that. So we're gonna go into that today and talk about when there is like conflict, and especially when it comes to like religious or like spiritual belief systems, and when they start to clash, and what can cause that and what you can do about it. And as well as I wanted to give a really heartfelt shout out to Ian Holm, who passed away of Parkinson's. It was I guess sometime either last night or this morning. And very, very dear friend of my partner's, and I wish him the best journey in non-physical that we can, and the peace that I hope that the family has and his friends have and everybody who knew him, because from what I understand and what I have, the stories and the amazing stories that I have heard, that he was such a wonderful, kind, and joyful human being, and I know that he would not want to leave a legacy of hurt and sadness. And I think that's one thing, that we get mistaken with after when people pass away and they move on, is the fact that we tend to want to stay in the hurt and the pain and the grief, thinking that somehow our grief, or the depth of our grief, is reflective of how much we love that person. And I think what we have to realize is that they just don't want to leave a legacy of hurt and sorrow. Like, they don't want, every time people think of them, for them to be in pain and being in grief. They want that legacy to be happy and joyful. And it takes us as physical beings, it takes us so long to get there, because we have to move through that grief process and whatnot. But we really what people don't understand, I think, this is so interesting, throughout all my years, with like 20 years of doing paranormal research, it's so interesting because there's this sort of mythos that goes around people who have passed away that they have some sort of unfinished business of some sort. And it's funny because it's not them that has the unfinished business. It's the living that has the unfinished business. They move on to this beautiful, pure positive, non-physical energy and wait for us to line up and catch up with that. But it's really the living, and we project that onto them. We project that hurt and that pain and whatever, but it's the physical that always has the unfinished business. And we think that they stick around because of that, and that's just not true. But we hang on as living beings, and as beings with ego and all of that, we try to hang on to the grief often, and we get stuck right in that pain. And we have to be really conscious of the fact that these are beings, and when we look in non-physical, in pure positive energy, when we look at the research that is done by places like the Windbridge Institute, and people like my great-great-grandfather and so on and so forth, and the messages that are actually being given from non-physical, from these people, is never, I'm hurting, or I'm in pain, or I'm struggling, or anything like that. It's always, please catch up with us. Please catch up with us. We want the interaction back with you, but you're so far back. You're back there hanging on to the hurt and the pain. And we're waiting to reconnect with you, but you're too far apart from it. We can't reach you that way. So it's really tough. And then there's of course the balance of not beating ourselves up as we move along and move forward through the process, because it is a process. And to pretend that everything's okay and that we're not going to miss the physicality of that individual is just bullshitting yourself. You have to be able to own that and start to move through that experience. It's really, really important. But as you're coming into that connection again, as you're feeling better, as you're coming into that pure positive energy again, we have to be able to, at that point, be able to let go, get yourself in a state of non-resistance, and allow for that communication to happen, because it will. And when we set that expectation, that kind of thing, it starts to come together again, and we start to feel that connection, and we start to see these little interactions. It doesn't always look like an apparition that shows up and this glowing apparition of the person that we've lost. It doesn't always look like that. Sometimes it's something different. It's little things throughout the day. Sometimes it is communication. There's many people, of course, that channel and things like that. But it's these little communications throughout the day, and it's emotion and feeling. So there's a lot with that. We tend to get hung up on words and texts and all of these different things. We get hung up on this stuff. And I thought I'd read a little bit before we get going on the concept of legacies and families today, a little bit from Teaching the Living, because I wrote a segment on this in here that I thought was super relevant, and I'm gonna throw this in here. The human experience is at the core of every investigation I have ever done. It is often said that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are all the same people, part of the same tribe, and we all have one specific thing in common: our physical lives will end. As an investigator of, at the time, 16 years or more, that one fact is often what brings a variety of these believers and non-believers knocking on my door. But even our perception of death can be challenged, and we should challenge it. The book is not about proving life after death. That debate has been done. Religion is ambiguous about what happens once the brain ceases to survive. Even religion is very focused on the physical, the tangible, and falls short in trying to make its case when it comes to unexplainable occurrences such as miracles. So much so that science has now basically disregarded it. And I think we really need to take a good look at our ideas of what death looks like, what it is, and understanding that death is a transition phase. It's not the end. It's not the end. It's a transition phase. And I thought in my great-great-grandfather's book, The 20th Plane, they asked the group of non-physical entities what the biggest surprise for them was after they made that transition, and they came back with a sentence that I will never forget that's very, very simple, and it says, "The simple fact that I'm alive." And I think that's so profound. It's so profound. Robert's saying here, simply emotions are hard. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Nobody said this was going to be easy. Nobody promised you easy when we got here. That's not what happened. You know, this is the journey is not something that's going to be all flowers and roses. It isn't. But Source does its best work in the dark. Always does, you know. And when it's ready to come into knowledge, when we're ready to come into that next phase and that light and whatever, that light will shine in always. But it was like we were talking about yesterday with a camera, right? With the camera and photographs. When you're in a dark room and you're developing a photo, you know, you turn around and you put that photo, you know, into the dark room. If you let light get in there too early, what happens? It destroys the picture, right? So there's a reason why there's darkness for a certain period of time, and we have to trust the process and move forward. So I loved this question today that I noticed, which is, would you give up investigations for your family? And I thought this was such a profound question, because so many people struggle with sort of interwoven, whether it be spiritual beliefs in the family that might be different than yours, or you know, people that are just offended by what you're doing. When Stephanie was still alive, her family did not understand her being a paranormal researcher. They did not get it. They didn't get it. They thought that she was absolutely nuts. There were parts of her family that thought she was point blank evil. She was a witch. She was evil. That was it. Her grandmother was a staunch Catholic, did not think that Stephanie should have been involved in any of this stuff, and basically was like, I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to deal with it, I'm done. And Steph had that decision to make. She had that choice to make. What am I going to do with this experience? What do I do? And what's interesting is that, you know, they always say that we are created in the image of source energy, of God, of, you know, whatever that term is for you. And here's the thing, is that source doesn't give us stuff that's finished. It gives us materials. It gives us things like thought. It gives us you know, trees and steel and all of these, you know, all of these different things that are modes of making and creating our experience. But because we are living in a creative energy, we are therefore a creative energy as well. And we get to choose. We get to decide what is it that we want to do with the tools that are put in front of us. What is it that we want to do with the gifts that are put in front of us, and the thoughts that we are thinking. Here's the thing with family, because I've had this question come up a few times where people have asked me, what do you do when, you know, you've got a family member that's basically like, I'm going to bloody disown you if you, you know, pursue the paranormal, pursue investigations, any of that. Like, I'm done. And this is the thing, is that if you cannot allow people to mess with your head, you cannot do that. Your thoughts, that's your central processing system for consciousness, for source, for you know, for all of these different avenues of creation. And seriously, like, we cannot allow people to mess with that. With, you know, thought is so important. Thought is what's creating our environment. It's what creates our world. It's how we see ourselves. You know, it's what generates our experience around us. You know, we can't be allowing people to mess with that. We have to be able to think beyond where we are. Their thoughts didn't make or break you, right? It didn't. Their thought did not create you. And we have to really take into consideration what this ends up looking like at the end of the day. If we've got things like family that are dictating, you know, what it is that we know we've got to move through and accomplish when it comes to things like, you know, pursuing a passion like, you know, paranormal research. For me, investigation and the paranormal has always been such a drive, and to me it's about exploring the magic and the you know, the elements of our world that we've always been taught that cannot happen. But the hardest fights are fights that we try, or the fights that we fight on the ground of the intangible. You know, it's funny because the conceptual world is also the creative realm. It always is. The conceptual world is the creative realm as well. And what's funny is that if you look over the years, you start to be able to see some interesting patterns, right? people years ago, were more apt to fight over stuff, right? That we're more apt to fight over stuff. We just were. And now we're seeing less of the fighting over stuff and more of the fighting over ideas, principles, ideas, things that were tangible, things that weren't tangible anymore. And before, as I say, it was a little bit easier because it's like, fighting over property or fighting over land or, dispute over territory and things like that. But the game is changing. That war is changing. And where we fight it is changing. Robert saying your family should help you pursue your passion, and if they don't like it, break off the toxicity. Yeah, and here's the thing: is he's right, and it seems so harsh because people think, well, I don't want to disconnect from, that's my family, that's my uncle, that's my brother, that's my whatever. But when you start to realize that your thought, what you think, what you put your attention on, is so powerful that it's creating your experience. If you don't have that group, those people around you that are going to support that vision, that's a big problem. It's a huge problem. One of the 9 factors, what they call the power 9 in the blue zones, the happiest places in the world, one of those 9 factors is that support system, the network of people around you. And it's literally, these are the longest living people in the world. For those of you guys who missed my class on blue zones, you can check out bluezones.com and you can read more about blue zones. These are the longest and the happiest people on the planet. And one of their key 9 factors was to have the support group around us. So as I say, we see less of these wars because they have turned oftentimes from physical to non-physical. And I'm not talking, needless to say, about something that is necessarily massive, although we're watching some of this play out right now on the world stage. But sometimes this can be something that's going on within your house, within your core group, within the interactions that you're having with the people around you. And it becomes really hard to talk about it because it's really hard to then put your finger on what it is that you're actually fighting about. It can be one of those things where, you're driving along, you're going to work, and, you're feeling like falling apart, and you can't even explain why. You don't know what it is. You can't put your finger on what's going on. And there's so many times, as I say, Stephanie fought with this for the majority of her life, was the fact that as she moved into building EntitySeeker, and as EntitySeeker became a lot more known and, as I say, focused on the world stage, and we started getting featured on shows, and it was becoming more public very quickly, and there was this very mixed bag in her family where they really didn't. I don't think they really understood what it was she wanted to do, what it was the message that she was really trying to get across, and it caused a lot of tension, a lot of upset. The family was very divided, and she really did have to make a choice. And I'll tell you what she did, and I thought this was brilliant, because the threat of what could happen is usually what destroys stuff. It really is. It really is what destroys our peace. And she hit this point where she said to them, look, here's where I am. Here's why I am. And, this world is pretty damn good. So you come join me in this experience or not. It's okay. No heat, no judgment. But she was not going to let go of the joy and the alignment that she had, because she loved being able to go out and do this. She loved going out and coming and doing the lectures and presenting, and we did some fantastic shows at the Shaw Conference Center here in Edmonton together. We were keynote speakers there, and we had a blast. We had so much fun teaching this stuff. And people would come from all over the place and whatever, and we'd fill a theater and whatever, and we'd sit there and we'd talk about this stuff. And her mom and her parents, as far as I get back as I can remember, never ever attended any of the speaking engagements that she had. They were never there. And they missed out, let me tell you, they missed out on a fantastic opportunity because the shows were great. But we have to be able to turn around and get above it. We got to get above it. If we don't feel safe in our heads, then we can't be creative. We can't be creative. And the safety is not coming from outside of you. It's not coming from outside of you. It's a paradigm shift. It's a paradigm shift. And to be able to stand at that point in front of people and say, no, look, you can do what you're going to do. That's okay. You behave and think the way you're thinking. I'm not going to try to control that, because you can't. At the end of the day, you freaking can't. You can't control that stuff. But you can turn around and say, I'm going to go above this. I'm going to rise above this. We talked the other day about, the idea of, these eagles, oftentimes, that, they make their nests on the edge of these cliffs, and then they kind of push their baby out. And baby doesn't know that they're going to be flapping, right? Like, they don't know that they can fly. They've seen their parents do it a bunch of times, but they don't know that. So they've got to take this sort of leap of faith, and the leap of faith is not off the platform of intellect. So, if we don't feel safe in our heads to be able to turn around and move forward and do that, you cannot be creative. It will not work. It just can't. So you've got to be able to turn around at that point and figure out what it is for you that's going to bring you that sense of establishment, that sense of core, that core centeredness that we talk about all the time. And it's different for everybody. But it's being able to get above this stuff, man. You got to be able to get above it. Brandy is saying that her family has always been a huge, huge factor in her life. And when she came out, her father, up to his death, had personal issues with the concept. There we go. I have to expand the comment. But as we move through time, he tried because he loved me and wanted to see me happy. It's taken a long time to realize this, but he truly loved me and was doing his best. Yeah, here's the damn thing too. People can only do the best they can with what they have. And we have to be able to acknowledge the fact that some people will not have enough for us. They won't have enough. They just don't have enough. And it's not because they're being bad people, and it's not because they're hurt, they're trying to tear you down or something like that. But some people just don't have, they're giving you all they have, but that, what they have is just, they're not, maybe their cup's not full up, right? Maybe their cup's not full up, and they're giving you, all they have, which is maybe half a cup, but it's, it might not have been enough. And the thing is, that's fine. That's okay. You can have that relationship with these people. You don't have to agree on everything. You don't. I have a lot of people in my life that are, in a completely different realm on different subjects than I am. That's okay. It's fine. Ultimately it doesn't matter, unless that belief has something to do with, things like they're really racist, or they're putting you down, or they're, they're cutting into a really core ideal or a principle that you hold. But you can be okay with other people that might think a little bit different. Some people cannot do this. Some people cannot do this. And so when we get into family situations, especially when it comes to the paranormal and research, and the want to understand non-physical energy, sometimes what's happening is we're hitting a couple of different nerves as well. We're hitting the nerve of people facing their mortality, which is a big one, facing their paradigm about how the world works and how what they perceive is not always their reality. The paranormal, let me tell you, makes you check in with yourself every single time. That's the brilliantness of the paranormal and paranormal research, is that it makes you check in with your belief system and who you are and what it is that you are projecting into the world. It makes you check in, and not everybody is comfortable with that. Not everyone's comfortable with checking in with themselves, and reevaluating who they are, and what they believe. And maybe that belief is a long-held paradigm of 50 years that's just not true anymore. We're seeing this again in, playing out right now on the world stage, where we've got a lot of people that had a lot of core beliefs about their country, about their, what was happening, about the, the overall, the systemic belief systems and systemic ideals that have been in, everything from police departments to, just offices, authority figures, political establishment, all sorts of stuff. and even down to the individual level. We're having to check ourselves. And that's what the paranormal does as well. It makes us check in. What do you believe? And here's the thing I will add for this, is that Stephanie and her grandmother, because as I say, her grandmother, staunch Catholic, did not think any of this was right, existed. Steph was going to hell, like it was the whole gambit. But what was very interesting was that eventually her mother got diagnosed with a terminal illness. And I can't remember, I think it was cancer. This was a long, long time ago. And the funny thing was about it, and I have found this myself, is that the first person her grandmother went to and knocked on the door was Steph. And she came and sat down with Steph and said, I want to know what you know. I want to know what you found. I want to know. And suddenly all of that hatred and that ignorance and that all of that disappeared. It just disappeared. And things got real. Things got real for her. And Stephanie, because she was one of the most gracious human beings on the planet, one of the most forgiving human beings on the planet, and she said, no problem. And she sat down and she spent an afternoon with her grandmother at her kitchen table and explained to her everything that I've been telling you guys about now, about non-physical and about the grace of source and the joy that is within all of this and source energy and the communication and how those relationships don't get broken. And she sat there and she explained it for the afternoon. And her grandmother and her never really had much of a relationship after that, but it healed something over at that point. It healed something over. And so even the people that are being challenged by, the paranormal and by ideals and things like that, if you've got those people in your family, and whatnot, you kind of have to be able to take a step back and understanding that it's not necessarily that they are upset with you. It's that it oftentimes will cause them to look at a deeper part of themselves that they might not want to be seeing and they might not want to look at. But interestingly, I find that the majority of those people are the ones who end up knocking on my door at the end of the day. It's very interesting. When it really comes down to it, when it really comes down to them checking in with themselves, they have to start to rethink when stuff hits them. And it's usually when either they lose somebody who's close to them, or they realize that their life is coming to an end, whether it be a terminal illness or age or whatever. So it's very interesting. So anyway, as we move into the weekend, because it's the weekend, you guys, we'll be back on Monday with more spiritual health care, because there's some great subjects coming up. I want to talk about water and healing next week. I was going to be doing it today, but I wanted to touch on the whole thing with Ian Holm this afternoon because of his transition process. So I hope that he is celebrated today through all of the tears and the sadness and the people who are missing him so much. I hope that he is celebrated, because I know non-physical is celebrating him on such a deep level. And his awareness of everybody who he knew and touched and worked with is so broad and vast now, that I know we will be hearing from him. I know we will be hearing from him, and that's exciting. Lori is saying sometimes family, especially parents, need an adjustment phase in order to come to acceptance of, if not embrace, your same beliefs. Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. Especially the older generations, we gotta be patient with them, because they are, and we can't be tolerant of the beliefs such as racism. We can't accept it. But at the same time, we have to, give them some transition period to move into this new way of thinking. This is something, things like the racism stuff, it can't be tolerated, it can't be accepted. We have to make the boundary clear to be able to say, no, we're not doing this anymore. This is not allowed anymore. And give them the space to make those changes. And we can hope that they do when it comes to moving into our own belief systems about the paranormal. You can hope that they find that journey But remember too that their journey about, especially non-physical stuff, it might not be yours either. So if they don't agree with that, don't worry about it. You know, if they, as long as they find that journey with you know, into some sort of understanding of you know, non-physical energy, whatever it is that's going to make them, you know, happy, that's really what you're aiming for. You know, if they don't believe the same as you, don't worry about it, because at the end of the day, man, let me tell you, it's so irrelevant. It's just so irrelevant. And we can learn from each other, because sometimes they've got an angle on something that, you know, maybe you haven't thought about or taken into consideration. So it's important that we kind of be open to that and learn from one another, and you know, move through our experiences in that way. But as I say, have the boundary. Have the boundary to be like, you know what, if you're going to bother me about this, if you're going to harass me about this, if you've got something going on that's hateful and stuff like that, cut it off. Cut it off. It's, you know, don't let people mess with your head. That's where our thought comes from. That's how we project into our world. That's what we create. That's how we are creative. Yeah, don't do that. Don't let people mess with the translation device of source energy, which is our brains, right? So we don't want to do that. So everybody, as we move into the weekend, we got to do our peace affirmations. Peace affirmations. You ready? Everybody take a breath. I'm a channel of peace and well-being, and my need for peace is abundantly met. I unconditionally accept, love, and appreciate myself and who I am. I recognize and am grateful for the abundance that is constantly flowing into my life, which I can choose to allow or not. I feel with every breath a sense of peace and love. I help others by maintaining and tending to my connection with source energy as much as possible. This well-being is accessible to me, even in a sea of uncertainty. And at this moment, all is well. I am able to liberate myself from my past and live with peace and serenity. I can see and appreciate all the beauty and abundance of the life around me. I am able to embrace love while letting go of fear. And I find peace with the soothing silence of my inner being. And everybody take a breath. Before I go today, I'm going to be posting a link. The Rhine Research Center, you guys, has an awesome course that's happening this evening. I didn't even know about it until today, so I'm going to post a link to the course so you guys can find it. It's called Capturing Healing Intention and Making It Scalable. So this is, it's going to be an amazing event. It's held by William Bangston. He's a professor of statistics and research at St. Joseph's College in New York City, and he's the president for the Society of Scientific Exploration, and basically, which is like a national group, an international group of scientists that study anomalies. And what he's going after today is understanding healing energies. Just unbelievable stuff. He's been making really significant progress in applying healing successfully in lab studies, from treatments of cancer to viral activities, all sorts of stuff like pertaining to what we're dealing with right now, you know, in the world and whatnot. So I'm going to post the link to the course tonight. It's basically by donation. So like if you guys have $5, you can join it. And it looks super, super cool. As I say, I'm going to set up the link on the Facebook page for you guys so you can check it out tonight, because I know for a fact it's going to be awesome. The Rhine does some like amazing stuff. I will see you guys tomorrow morning, or not tomorrow morning, Monday morning, Spiritual Healthcare. We will be back talking about more of all of this. Enjoy your weekend, you guys. Have a great Saturday, Sunday. I will see you guys I will see you Monday morning. If you want to catch up on past classes, youtube.com/EntitySeeker, as well as EntitySeeker.ca. And I will see you guys on Monday. Bye, everybody.